Heyo, Angry Spork here with Young Justice Outsiders, Season 3, Episode 23, Terminus, which starts out with the Green Lanterns, Hal, John, Guy, encompassing the orphanage in a green barrier so it can't boom tube away. Several Justice League javelins, I imagine, are enclosing, but Elongated Man on one of those ships, he thinks it's kind of suspicious, and Guy tends to agree. An energy bubble containing Superman, Icon, the Atom, Wonder Woman, they're closing in on the orphanage. Superman can see the captured kids inside, and then the device that was affecting them when they were previously on the orphanage, Soup's Wonder Woman and Hawkwoman, it's activated and it spreads out to everyone. And when just as Superman's saying fight through it, that's when Halo hits them with the anti-life equation, and they're currently incapacitated. And Granny Goodness is just so happy, and Darkseid's gonna be happy too. I'm gonna sing the Doom song now! After the opening theme, on the coast of Santa Monica, and it's kind of foggy, and Jefferson Pierce is just kind of sitting, looking out into the horizon, and Virgil sits down next to him, offers him a hot dog, but he once had hot dogs with Helga Chase, and then they went to dinner, and then he went into her hotel room. It's just too painful a meal now. But after his flashbacks, it just kind of sits there. Neither one of them say anything, and it actually just sits there for a while. Not like a minute, but it kind of feels like a minute. But it's understandable. It kind of makes sense for the mood and the atmosphere. And I think it really works to, kind of show what he's feeling with his surroundings. We go to the Hollywood base, and Garfield and several of the Outsiders and Tigress and Aquaman are watching Gretchen Good on the news, saying that her studios have been broken into and there's signs that they were metahumans, even though she donated to the Taos facility, and she's just so heartbroken. Something must be done about these criminal metas. And Beast Boy's had enough, storms upstairs. Forager wishes he could sniff out Violet the way he did Cyborg. And it was them that looked into Gretchen Good's facilities to see if Violet was there, but she wasn't. Aquaman thinking that she's off-world. That's when Grayson comes out from his medical room saying that he's feeling fine. He has a low-grade fever, apparently, but it took some convincing for Barbara to go home. And part of that was, Aquaman promising to look after him for the time being. Elsewhere, Superboy and Miss Martian are telepathically arguing. He doesn't like that she lied. She feels that it was for the greater good. It wasn't like how they faked Artemis's death in the second season. And since Miss Martian didn't know that at the time, she brain-fried Calder for it. Superboy also brings up that in between season 1 and 2, their relationship ended because she tried altering his mind over something she did. And yeah, he forgave her, but he didn't exactly forget. And, Megan's like, hey, I would never do something like that again. That's not... And Superboy says, hey, even if it's not telepathic, lies alter minds. This is really going to put a hamper on the wedding, isn't it? Their doorman, Kirby Jacobs, rings them saying that they have a guest, a Mr. Savage. Huh. That was unexpected. So Savage is in front of Forager, Artemis, Nightwing, Superboy, etc. And he says, I know you've lost someone, and I know you have a mother box, so I'm willing to give you coordinates to Violet Harper's exact location. The catch is he wants them to tell Granny exactly who gave them her location, which is kind of head-scratching, but I'm sure we'll get an explanation later. Everyone's getting prepped. Miss Martian wanted to bring along Tracy 13, but she's training with Zatanna at the Tower of Fate, so Nightwing's gonna sub for her. After all, it's, kind of his team, too. Though last time we saw the Tower of Fate, Clarion was still trying to get out, so what happened there? Since Aquaman promised to look after Grayson for Barbara's sake. He's going as backup, and he's not going to be there in a leadership capacity. It's, that's Megan's deal. Geo-Force is telling Superboy that he's going, and no one's going to stop him. And Khan's like, hey, no one's trying to stop you from going. We just want to make sure that your head is in the game, that you're not going to screw up, if for no one else's sake other than Violet's. And, Brion seems to understand this, and he walks out, and Nightwing, I guess he caught the tail end of that conversation, because he tells Connor that he sounds a lot like Big Blue, like a real leader. And Superboy doesn't think he's a leadership type, and Nightwing says he hates being leader himself, but Connor turns to him as he's walking out and says, you're already a leader. The question is, what kind do you want to be? And man, Connor's gotten real philosophical in the past couple of years. So they have the coordinates, Forager and Terra are joining them, and it's go time. They boom tube to the orphanage, they knock out a couple of parademons, and they decide to split into two teams. Basically, the adults and Brion leading Forager and Terra elsewhere. And, he's honored that he's been given this trust, and he's assuring Superboy that, he'll keep his head in the game. So they go off. The thing is Mother Box can detect Violet's presence. McGann hasn't detected her psychically. And Aquaman says that the League was planning a raid on the orphanage to save the Meta-Teens, and after they notice a javelin in the hangar, and McGann can't sense any of the League either, not even Martian Manhunter. So they have to assume, given what the Markov kids told them, that the League is under Granny's control. They start spreading out because they're going to be expecting a fight real soon. Aquaman and Grayson are hiding behind some boxes. Grayson's wiping his head. Calder notices that's kind of a sign, and maybe not the best one. We briefly go to Dakota City, where Jefferson is saying goodnight to Static via fist bump, because there's still no dialogue. And he's just walking the streets, and he's thinking back to when Batman and several other Leaguers quit. Then we go back to the orphanage, and Beta Team is stopped by Forager smelling someone coming their way. So they hide, and they see a couple of Furies, a few Parademons, and then Mantis, Forager's old buddy that exiled him. And once they leave, Forager's a little sad and surprised that his old hive buddy would join Apocalypse, even though he did despise the new gods. And here's a funny thing. Terra says that anger can cloud someone's judgment. Anger, judgment, cloudy. Brion turns some rock into lava and then puts it over his hand as a glove and says, hey, he made his choice and we've made ours for the sake of our hive, our family. Kind of a big old hero speech. And they continue to look for Violet while alerting Alpha Team they've got incoming. So the Apocalyptian squad that passed by Beta Team engages Alpha, and Megan gives them a chance to surrender first, which they, of course, deny. And we get some pretty good action here from all players. Nightwing, however, has set up some exploding blades to seal off one of the entrances when he gets hit by one of the parademons, knocking him off a stack of boxes. He gets buried briefly. He gets pulled out by Kid Flash. I'm like, oh, so the Outsiders snuck along somehow. No, it's not Bart, it's Wally. He's running around giving goofy commentary. Every so often Artemis will say, I can hear you, right? And as he does this, everyone else is in their season 1 look. Calder's dressed like Aqualad. Superboy's look, basically his pants are different. That's about it. And even Grayson ends up looking like he did as Robin. It gets really strange because first he hacks the javelin so that some tasing weapons will come out, take out the rest of the parademons, and then he and Kid Flash sit back and start playing a game on their hollow wrist things. And the game is basically the other members of their team taking out these other enemies. And I mean, it's nothing too elaborate. It's like still image of one, still image of the other, attack, bad guy goes down. And then a point score. Of course they have to put in the number 52. Then he comes out of it. Then it's revealed, oh, he was doing this while having a fever dream. And, well, since they're all still psychically linked, everyone else was experiencing it too. Artemis like hugs him, says, hey, Wally's always with us. And it's awful sweet. And this kind of explains the threads I've seen on DC Universe. People saying, like, oh, could Wally come back? Is Wally going to come back? Oh, they're setting up for Wally to come back. Like, I don't think so. Because I remember shortly after Season 2 came out, Greg Weisman said that in this particular universe, there is no Speed Force. So he's not trapped in the Speed Force only to come out. Now, that wasn't officially stated in the show, so that could change if they wanted. But, for all intents and purposes, Wally's gone. And it's just, whenever something like this is like, oh, I want so-and-so to come back. And the same thing happened with Dinobot during Beast Wars. It's like, it's called a sacrifice for a reason. And I know you like the character. I know you want them to come back. I liked Wally too, but you know what? I think it might be better just to leave him gone. Because there's a real chance it could start complicating things and make the show less good. But that's just me. So Aquaman's like, if you're not 100%, you can fall back. It's like, and Nightwing's like, hey, I haven't felt this good in years. He picks up a space laser weapon. Kind of surprising. He says, let's go after Granny. And so, like, why is he holding a gun? I'm not entirely sure. Whatever. Then we go to Metropolis. And Jefferson is at his ex-wife's house. And his youngest child is running around dressed up like Bumblebee. And then he sees his eldest daughter walk in, kind of like nothing too elaborate. Like it's kind of like a Black Lightning themed T-shirt and some goggles, and that really picks up Pierce's spirit. And picks up his daughter, hugs her. The other daughter comes in, join in. Like, oh, he's just so happy, and I'm willing to bet this might lead to him like maybe officially retiring for good this time, or maybe he just gets over his betrayal by Jace. I don't know. So Beta Team finally finds Halo right next to Granny Goodness, and she starts monologuing about all the terrible stuff happening to Brion, dead parents, betrayal, and, betrayed by a confidant. We get a quick look at Tara. She looks over at her brother real quick. And Forager is psychically saying, hey, keep cool. And like, Brion's saying, oh, I'm just acting. He's like putting up a front for Granny's sake, and he's preparing to order the mother box to free Violet. But that's when Martian Manhunter phases onto the scene and severs McGann's link to the team. Brion still has the lava fist, so he starts swinging, but it gets caught by Superman. He knocks them all back. And Manhunter grabs the mother box, and Granny's just so amused by this. And with Alpha Team, McGann's saying she lost the connection, but she briefly sensed her uncle, and, well, yeah, they know the League's been taken. And Aquaman has an idea, basically do to everyone in the room what she once did to him. Basically mind fry them. Simple mind blast to knock them out won't work since they're basically puppets now. Superboy doesn't like that idea. Not just because of what it'll do to their friends, but what it'll do to McGann. So he's still considering her feelings on this. And she says, hey, the universe is at stake here. The anti-life equation could be incredibly dangerous. So she's willing to basically sacrifice her soul in order to save everyone. Yikes. So Beta Squad is basically at Granny's mercy. Forager's wondering how they're going to beat the Justice League. We're just kind of standing around being all zombie-like. And Granny's like, oh, you're not going to fight them. You're going to join them. And spread anti-life throughout the universe for Darkseid. It's going to be so much happy fun. And Brion tries to fight back, but Superman just puts him back on his knees, and like you see some smoke coming out. So at first I thought it's like Superman's hand like superheating, like probably it was Brion's powers. Granny summons the glowy red box that encompasses her and Halo, and she turns on the great big pain machine, basically about to put anti-life upon everyone, when McGann starts her psychic attack. And Alpha is about to destroy the big old yellow orb pain machine. When the orb expands, Granny pushes Halo out and has her speak those ancient words, and everyone is now anti-life. Even the team. Really dour note. And then we get the credits over Wolf sleeping next to a hologram memorial to someone. We only see the feet, but I'm willing to bet it's Kid Flash's memorial. You know, because we saw him earlier and so forth. This was, oh boy, how to describe this episode. We got some more action. We got some really amped up stakes. It almost seemed a little sudden that Brion kept such a cool head, but I think given his growth throughout the season, I think it works. The argument about how McGann uses their powers, it was good to have that precedent set by their argument earlier in the episode, her and Superboy, so it didn't come as a shock later. That way we didn't need like to flash back to it or anything, and we didn't need like a whole lot of exposition just all of a sudden. I remember Martian Manhunter saying she had like immense untapped psychic abilities in season 1. Wouldn't it have made more sense just to focus on Granny than everyone in the room? It just seems like she could have, well, maybe she couldn't have pinpointed Granny. I mean, she couldn't detect the League, so it kind of makes sense. So, yeah, that was quite a way to end the episode. Kind of a Empire Strikes Back kind of feel. Granny also mentioned that metas will survive the anti-life equation, whereas normal humans will not. And that explains why Grayson's time in the X-Pit was a little more traumatic and difficult for him than it was for Black Lightning. And there was a scene where you see Elongated Man and the 3 Green Lanterns just kind of standing there in a more zombified state. Elongated Man kind of melting a little. And, I mean, it shouldn't happen to EM because, well, he's clearly a meta. I don't know about the Green Lanterns because technically they're not metas, but they do have those rings, so I don't know how much protection it really gave them. And she seems to specify anyone without a meta gene, but technically Martian Manhunter, Miss Martian, Superman, they're not really metas. It's their own biological functions, if in some cases under certain conditions. Superman needs a yellow sun to have his powers, so I don't know if that counts him as meta, but with the Martians, it's like they're natural shapeshifters and telepaths. So the way she said it almost seemed like it's singling out your average human for destruction, and all the other aliens with their crazy wacky powers are going to be A-okay. They've got 3 more episodes left, which they're going to release all at once, and I'll still probably vlog them 1 week at a time. I'll see you next time. Later.